Well, I'm Bob and my wife, Kristen Beltrano. We're owners and part-time cruisers, full-time liveaboards on the Swan 53 Naya, which right now we're summering in Newport, Rhode Island, and we winter in typically the Caribbean, but most often the British Virgin Islands. And we sail back and forth every year. Our boat was a race boat, stripped out strictly for racing, but it's still a Swan, so it still had the cruising furniture and the things we wanted, but we found it as a blank sheet so we could add things. So aside from all the things down below, on deck, one of the more important things was what we called taming the main, because 76-foot mast and 90% of our mileage would be coastal or offshore and would be with the two of us. And the way it was set up, the boat was set up to run with 15 people, mostly half of them beefy racers and the other half owners or drivers or tacticians. So it became obvious that we had to replace those people with Kristen, because I was going to be the owner, tactician, driver, and she was going to be the mastman and the bowman and the mainsail worker. So we had to look for a solution that would make it easy, something we'd be willing to do, and something that was safe to do offshore, short-handed. So our real criteria, though, was that we had a Swan, which is a performance boat. So we really wanted to not sacrifice the performance we had in the sail configuration. And so getting an in-mast furler, for example, was just not an option. I mean, they're fine, they get the boats out there, but you lose so much of your main sail trim ability and the power you have from the main that that wasn't going to be an option for us. And there were other options of changing the boom, getting a Park Avenue, but we still had to wrestle with a lot of canvas. Remember, it's a 76-foot mast, so it's a lot of mainsail. And I just read about this newfangled thing back in 2000 called a Leisure Furl, and it gave me an option of having a fully battened mainsail that I could tuck into the boom and retract and reef, and it offered the redundancy of not just, if the furling mechanism jammed or failed, I could always treat it like a regular boom and let go of the halyard and watch the mainsail drop on the boom. I mean, just like a normal sail would work. So I had the redundancy I wanted, yet keeping the performance I wanted. So we put it on our boat in the summer of 2000. So for 14 years, we've had the Leisure Furl. We've covered distances from Newport down through Florida, down to the Caribbean, to Trinidad and back for slightly over 80,000 miles now in 14 years. And the Leisure Furl's been with us the entire time.
We just stay in the cockpit. We can do everything from the cockpit, and it's wonderful. Nobody has to go forward, especially when you're short-handed. It's turned out to be a very nice tool in that sense. And getting around on our boat is like a jungle gym. You have to pass under the bimini, around the Dodger, out of the cockpit, into the other cockpit, up on the deck. It's not the safest thing, especially at night, to do that. And to be able to stay in the cockpit and know each other is safe in the cockpit, and not having to keep an eye on somebody and their safety while you're trying to bring the main down. It's made it a great system for us, because we can both stay back there and stay safe and reef the main, or shake out the reef if we want to. And
the other thing is, with the Swan or any sort of fast boat, fast is wet, and in the ocean, every other wave goes over us. So we're up one wave, and the next wave we're under, and so everything forward is, you're looking at white water coming over the deck all the time. So just being up there, handling the main at the mast is just not what you want to do, especially when you need to handle it, like reefing. And when you're reefing, the seas are up, the winds are up, and so it's a bad time. And the other thing about reefing is that most mains have 1, 2, 3 reef points that you go to. You reef the one mark, you reef the second mark. Well, yeah. We often sail at a half a reef, because we're at any point we're trade winds, and so it's 15 knots, and we know that we have this much main, the helm's light and easy. And you know, and then we
Yeah, you're not
then we go further and
restricted
further.
as to where you
So
have to reef.
we optimize the performance of the boat based on our ability to reef to the conditions we meet. And the other thing is when it's done, we shake it out. I mean, boom, the sail goes back up.
And at the end of the day, when it's all said and done and you're putting the boat away, the absolute best part about it is the mainsail cover. You roll it up into the boom, not even 30 seconds later, boom, mainsail cover is on and you're done.
Yeah.
And your sail is covered, it's protected from UV, and it's a clean, tidied up boat.
Yeah, our last mainsail, not our current mainsail, but our last mainsail lasted 7 years, and its shape and condition was much better than it should have been for the time, because it's always rolled, it's never folded, it's always covered when it's put away.
And also, we like to race the boat, and it's great for racing. For us, we don't have 15 people on board racing. It's usually just us and a few friends, and it's great to have it for racing. The performance, full bat and main.
Yeah.
We do pretty well in some of the spring regattas and the races that we race down in the Caribbean islands.
People complain that it doesn't have an outhaul, but you know, we make up for the outhaul. There's several ways. Forespar has their thoughts on how to tie it, and taking some twists in the mandrel to tighten it. We do it differently. We tie it a little more taut, and then we use halyard tension. We ease the halyard tension downwind, so we move the draft aft, and then when we know we're going to come up, before we actually go hard on it, we put the main halyard tension back on it, move that draft forward, and now it's tight as a drum when we round the mark. In the last 4 BVI spring regattas in the jib and main class, we have 2 firsts, a second, and a fourth. This is for a 22-year-old Swan racing around with
15-year-old Leisure Furl.
yeah, with a almost 15-year-old Leisure Furl with a Corinthian crew. So last year in St. Thomas Rolex, the winds were blowing 20, 25, occasional higher gusts. There's a squall coming behind us. We see the squall. Thought, hopefully it's not that much stronger than it's already blowing, because when it's blowing strong, it blows out. We see the first boat on our line at our 5 o'clock do a Chinese jibe. I mean, he just broaches right over. The next boat next to him broaches.
Sail ripped in shreds.
Rich, and he's the one who lost his rig. His main just did a horrible jibe, broke his boom, lost his rig. We hit a wave that takes us up and over. We end up sideways. My rudder is out of the water. She blows the spinnaker sheet, but the guys never release. Immediately, our brand new Forespar carbon fiber spinnaker pole snaps into.
That went in the water.
But now we're sideways.
Spinnaker's in the water. The main's in the water.
Our main.
The boom's in the water.
Well, our main is, our boom is straight up. The boat's on its side. The main's fully inflated, straight up, and now we're rounding up. So it goes from being full downwind straight up to all of a sudden upwind, and it goes from 90 degrees up, slams into the water all the way down. We were lucky everyone had ducked, and I fully expected it to snap into 2 pieces and or take down the rig.
3-4 feet under the water.
It was the most violent thing we ever had on the boat, ever. And the only thing that happened to that Leisure Furl was we lost the fiberglass end cap. It's a cosmetic cap that covers the end cover. That was gone, and we righted ourselves, changed our shorts, and we started looking.
Got the spinnaker down, and the main and jib were still out. Main was perfectly fine. Sailed
absolutely
on,
no damage to
the
the
race.
gooseneck,
Surprisingly enough.
the attachment, the mandrel, or the boom. That's once again where Kristen was doing the job of the entire mastmen and the foredeck crew, while I stayed in command at the wheel.